Hello, and thank you for tuning in to our 2021 Social Security Seminar. The seminar was held in person for those in Denver a couple weeks ago, but happy to be able to do this for anyone outside of Denver that would like to learn a little bit more of Social Security. I'm Blair Braden, managing partner and co-founder of Denver Wealth Management. I'd first like to just tell you a little bit about who we are. We're an independent investment firm based in Denver, Colorado, with clients in almost all 50 states today. I believe what separates our firm from others is our advanced planning. 100% of financial advisors that you go to meet with will offer investment consulting advice to you, talking about your 401ks and your investments that you have. Some will do that better than others. But I believe advanced planning is what separates Denver Wealth Management from some of our competitors. Advanced planning are things like Social Security. How and when do I take my Social Security? If you're sitting there thinking, I'm hoping to get an answer as to exactly when I should take Social Security by the end of this seminar, I am happy to tell you that date in which you should apply. It's easy. I just need you to do one favor for me. If you'll please send me an email, give us a call, and let us know exactly when you, and if you're married, your spouse, when you're going to die. If you let me know that number, I will tell you when to take Social Security. Of course, none of us know that, thank God. I don't want to know that date. But if you knew that date, it would be a lot easier to make a decision on Social Security. The point with that being that there is no perfect answer when and how you take Social Security. You're going to have some assumptions, take some risk as to when you take it. But we will certainly address a lot of the strategies and topics that a lot of folks are concerned about when they look at taking Social Security. But if you would like to learn more about our firm, if you would like your own Social Security analysis done by our firm, that's a free analysis that we're happy to offer. All you got to do is contact us. Our services go beyond Social Security, certainly, again, with advanced planning, investment management, estate planning, college planning, retirement planning, saving for short-term goals, insurance planning. These are all things that we cover in our office. But here today, we'll focus on Social Security. With that, let's dive into it. The first slide that I want to go over has nothing to do with Social Security. It's the index chart. The index chart just shows the different market indexes from 1926 until present. The point with this slide is, yes, Social Security is important. Our approach, though, is we want our clients' Social Security payments to be gravy, to be extra onto their financial situation. We never want our clients depending solely on Social Security. The index chart that you're seeing on the screen here is one way that we help clients not only depend on Social Security for their retirement needs. This is the stock market since 1926, again, all the way until present time. Some really cool information on this chart. If you're a bunch of finance nerds like us, you can stare at this chart for hours and still be entertained. A few of the highlights and questions I might quiz you on if you were sitting here today. You can think back to 1982. What was the average interest rate on a 30-year mortgage? I'll give you a second. Okay, time's up. 18.62% is what folks had to pay for their mortgage. Sounds crazy, right? Another cool thing that I like to point out on this chart is the red and blue that you see at the bottom, the lines. Yes, those are politicians. Is it Republican or Democrats in the president's seat or in Congress? Can you see a pattern? Does the market like one more than the next? I see no pattern. I believe the market is apolitical. But the power of this chart shows the power of compound interest. Since 1926, the S&P 500, which is here illustrated on your line, which is an index of the 500 largest companies in the United States, has done over 9% a year rate of return. Now, which is a really good rate of return, in my opinion, a cool rule that we all like, the rule of 72. It means how long does it take my money to double? All you do is you take 72 and you divide it by your rate of return, and that tells you how long it takes your money to double. So if we're using the historical average of the S&P 500, let's just say it's a flat 9%, 72 divided by 9, every 8 years, your money has doubled without you putting any more money into it. That's the beauty of compound interest. Using the stock market, capitalism to your advantage can help an individual ensure that they aren't dependent upon Social Security. However, we're here to talk about Social Security today. So now let's really get into some of the strategies and topics that some might consider when looking at Social Security. Things that we're going to talk about, some of the important numbers around Social Security, the different ages, the different amounts, percentages, fun numbers based on Social Security. We're going to talk about spousal benefits. If you're married, is your spouse entitled to any benefits on your accord? We're going to talk about survivor benefits. If you pass away or your spouse passes away, are you entitled to any benefits? And then finally, we're going to talk about taxation. Yes, for most people, Social Security is taxed. Most years, we get a cost of living adjustment on our Social Security payments. It's not guaranteed. It's not baked in. It's based on average inflation here in the country, here in the US. This last year, we got a cost of living adjustment on our Social Security of 1.3%. We are shooting this September 29th. Here in October, we're going to find out what is the cost of living adjustment for next year's Social Security payments. It is projected to be 6% or greater, the largest COLA that we've seen on Social Security since 1982. It's incredible. Why? Well, we've seen inflation pick up last year, and I guess in 2020. As we see inflation pick up, that COLA typically goes right along with it. That helps both those receiving benefits as well as those still earning credits to get benefits. So it's nice to see that. A few other things, when we did this live, we had a question about the sustainability of Social Security. Now, I have no crystal ball, but if we read our Social Security statement, it tells us that now, because of COVID, in 12 years from now, the Social Security Administration is only going to pay us 80% of what they're telling us they're going to be able to pay us. And so the question was asked, is Social Security going to go bankrupt? Do I have a chance of actually getting it? My answer is yes, probably, right? I don't know for a fact by any means, but I believe that there are a ton of levers that Congress could pull to sustain Social Security further. One of those levers that they could pull, for an example, is how much of our income is taxed on Social Security. This is while we're working. And the number was raised this year up to your first $142,800 worth of earnings, you pay Social Security tax on. That goes into the Social Security coffers to help provide benefits from those receiving them. I believe that, again, a way that they could sustain Social Security is to possibly just raise that number up. Instead of capping it, say that you pay Social Security tax on all of your income. That would help substantially. Other things that they could do is say, instead of being able to receive Social Security at 62, now you can't start until you're 64, 65, and so on. There are lots of levers that they could pull. I believe that if politicians don't pull those levers, a lot of folks that have paid into the system to get benefits, all of a sudden their benefits go away. Those politicians are out of a job real fast. I don't know much about politics, but I would think that their number one concern is getting elected again. Take benefits away from a bunch of people. I don't see that going well. So again, I don't want to depend on Social Security, but that's not a major concern that I have, that it's going away entirely. Now, for young people, who knows? Certainly don't even think about getting it. Just save and invest in yourself. And if it's there, great. One other quick thing on this slide: in order to qualify for Social Security, you do need 40 credits of enough earned income. So that's basically 10 years of working. You get 1 credit per quarter. And each one of those quarters, in today's dollars, you need to make at least $1,470. You do that for 40 quarters or 10 years, then you do qualify for a Social Security benefit. Next, we're going to talk about full retirement ages. This is an important number. A lot of the benefits for yourself, your spouse, the survivor, if you can work or not, and have your benefit impacted negatively or not, all those are based on your full retirement age. Your full retirement age varies based on the year that you were born. and this chart does a great job. I don't need to read it for you guys exactly when you were born, what your full retirement age is, but it's important to note that it varies based on when you were born. If you're talking to someone born in 1955, they're going to have a different retirement age than someone born in 1965, for example. Full retirement age, though, is very important, as we said, for many reasons in regards to benefits, and we'll get into that here shortly. Some more important ages. 50, a great age. For most of us, maybe our kids are close to out of the house, or they're almost through college, or maybe they've already moved back into the basement. I don't know. But 50 is a cool age because you can do more contributions to your retirement accounts than you could prior to 50. These are the catch-up years. These are the years that we do see a lot of our clients saving more money than they had earlier in their career. Again, a lot of times it's because their expenses have maybe decreased and or their income is at the highest level that it probably is going to be for their working career. The highest earning potential, lower expenses, great time to stack a lot of money away. It's awesome that the government allows us to do more in a tax preferential manner now. The next age, 55, that point in time, you can do penalty-free withdrawals from your 401k. This can be important that if you retire early because you did a good job with your finances and you have that ability, you're 55, you want to retire, yet most of your money is tied up in 401ks and IRAs, it may be a good idea before you roll your 401k from your last job to an IRA, it might be a good idea to pull a pretty good chunk of money out of that because you won't pay any penalties. You cannot pull money out of retirement accounts penalty-free until you're 59 and a half without a few exceptions. This is one of those exceptions at 55, being able to do a distribution out of your 401k penalty-free. 59 and a half, the next stage, we mentioned that earlier, that is where you can pull money out of your retirement accounts penalty-free. 60, that is the minimum survivor benefit that you could get from Social Security, meaning that if your spouse had died, 60 is the youngest that you can receive a spousal benefit. 62, the minimum age in which you could receive any sort of Social Security benefits. And again, that age might increase if they're trying to shore up Social Security some more. 65, Medicare time. And with Medicare, I think it's important to remember 3 months prior, your month of, and 3 months after. What I mean is 3 months prior to your 65th birthday, you can apply for Medicare. You can do that up to 3 months before your 65th birthday, the month that you turn 65, and 3 months after your 65th birthday. It is imperative that you sign up for Medicare during that time. If you do not, you will be penalized for the rest of your life. You'll pay a higher cost in your Medicare for the rest of your life if you don't sign up in that gap or within that window. Now, if you're still working and you have employer provided health care, it's important still in these same time bands or that window, and maybe even prior to have a discussion with your benefits department, your HR group, to figure out how does their healthcare plan integrate with Medicare. You don't want to have to pay that penalty for the rest of your life. Age 66, that is full retirement age for the group of individuals born prior to 1954, I believe it is. 67, another full retirement age. And then there's, for those born later, and then there's 66 and 2 months, 66 and 4 months. Again, based on the year you were born is going to give you your full retirement age. And we'll get into, again, why that's so important. Age 70 is the last year that you can apply for your Social Security benefits. That's the maximum your Social Security will be. Between ages 62 and ages 70, your benefit will grow 8% a year without you putting any more money in. So if you're not working, it's still going to be growing that 8% a year between 62 and 70. So your full retirement age is when you receive 100% of your benefit. Well, if your full retirement age is 66 and you wait until 70, you actually get 124% of your benefit because it grew at 8% a year from 66 to 70, and it starts at 62. But at 62, your benefit's less than 100% of your full benefit. At age 72, that is when required minimum distributions must start out of your retirement accounts. This age used to be 70 and a half, but it was changed last year, and now it's 72 that you have to start taking money out of your retirement accounts. All right, now we're getting into why is full retirement age that important? We're going to shift to working while you're taking your benefits. Long story short on this, if you make too much money, if you elect to take Social Security and you make too much money prior to your full retirement age, there is a very good chance that you'll see your benefit reduce substantially during your Social Security benefit reduce substantially through those time periods. There's earning limitations. So in 2020, if you earn $18,960, you're still fine and you'll get your full amount at age 62 for Social Security. For every $2 over that you make, your benefit's going to be reduced by $1. Now, this is not a benefit that's lost forever. You will get that money back once you turn full retirement age, whatever money they withheld because you made too much, you'll get that back at full retirement age, but your benefit is going to be a lot less. And that COLA number that we talked about at the very beginning, remember, that's a multiplier. It's a percentage based on how much you're making. It's 1.6% or it's 6% maybe this year based on how much you're making in Social Security. When you take that Social Security at a younger age, it's a less impact for you. It's not as good versus if you wait longer, those COLA adjustments, they make a much larger impact to you. Then there's the earnings limitation. So when we have clients that if they retire early even, or they're still working, but let's use the example where they retire early. They're 60 years old, have plenty of money, want to stop working, and they're considering taking Social Security at 62. My question to them starts with, well, are you going to be doing any consulting, any part-time work? Talk to me about what is your working expectation. Retirement for people does not mean necessarily that they stop working. A lot of times it means they stop what they're doing, but they still do something different. Maybe something that they get more satisfaction out of, they have more flexibility, XYZ, it could be the answer. But if you have that intent to pick up some of these other jobs, whatever it may be that's paying you an income, you got to take that into account when you're considering taking your Social Security early. Once you get to full retirement age, for those that are 66, it's a little tricky still. You can still have an earning limitation between the ages of 66 and 67. It's not as bad. For every $10 over the limit, they take away $1. So it doesn't hit you as hard, and it's only 1 year that you're out the money. They'll pay you that back at 67. But really, once you get to age 67, then you could take your Social Security and you could make $1 million a year if you wanted to, and your benefit would not negatively go down. That's not the case again if you take it early. So you get paid to wait a little bit for a lot of reasons when it comes to taking your Social Security benefit. All right, jumping now into spousal benefits. If your spouse never worked, that's okay. They can still get some benefits on your accord, most likely. Now, there are some requirements that they must have. You must be married for at least 10 years for that individual. I'm sorry, that's for ex-spouses. You have to be married, I apologize, for at least 1 year prior to trying to collect spousal benefits. But even if your spouse never worked, they are entitled to a portion of your benefit. Now, the thing to note here is your spouse cannot start collecting spousal benefits until the earner starts taking their own benefits. And the ages of those things are important. So the spouse's percentage, how much of your benefit they will get, depends on the age in which they elect to take that spousal benefit. And so theirs is a percentage, and we see here on the screen, if they elect at age 62 and their full retirement age is 66, they're going to get 35% of the working spouse's benefit, assuming the spouse has collected. Now, again, if that spouse starts at 62, that's a much lower amount than if they were to wait till full retirement age. So that 35% is more impactful to the upside if the spouse waited until full retirement age or 70 to start taking their own, and then the non-working spouse can elect at these different ages that we see on the screen, and it tells us what percentage they will get of the working spouse's benefit. Now, if they worked, both spouses worked, both spouses could still be entitled to a spousal benefit. You're going to receive either your own benefit or your spousal benefit, whichever is greater. And again, the one spouse has to be collecting before the other can apply on that. We will work through just a few examples here. Just one example, actually. Jack and Diane both grew up in the heartland. That sounds really familiar. Have you guys heard that before? Anyway, sounds familiar to me. Diane was the higher earner, and Jack's retirement benefits are less than his spousal benefits. So if Jack were to claim at age 62, he'd receive a spousal benefit at 35. But if he would have waited until 66, he would have received a benefit of $5,000. So what's the break even there? When should Jack elect? When's Jack going to die? That question again. That varies. If he's going to die at 67, he should take it at 62, that spousal benefit right away. Most likely, if one of the spouses, assuming someone's married, but even an individual in this case, if one of them has a high likelihood of living until at least 81, 82, that's usually the break-even year that we see of waiting to take your Social Security benefits is the best option for your family if you have a little bit of longevity in your family history. All right. So again, this is something that we talked about earlier. Your spouse has to apply for their own benefit before you can start receiving a spousal benefit. So this is kind of another cool example that breaks down the spousal. And it basically is talking about three individuals and two, Marwin and David, who actually worked their whole lives versus Machias, who did not work. And it is going to shake out to where Machias gets the most Social Security benefit, even though they never worked. Marwin and David, the reason being because they took their benefits at age 62. If we get down here to the next screen, we see that Machias, who's going to get a spousal benefit from their working spouse, they end up making more from Social Security than Marwin and David, just because he was able to wait until full retirement age before he elected his spousal benefit. So these things are all tied together, right? And again, tons of moving parts. If this just sounds like I'm speaking French to you, please, contact us. We're happy to do this analysis for you and tell you, hey, this is the optimal Social Security scenario, and this is the age that one of you needs to live to for it to be beneficial for your family. All right, so survivor benefits. Let's jump into what happens. What are you entitled to if your spouse passes away? Are you entitled to any benefits? Absolutely. So the amount of spousal benefit you are going to receive also is going to depend on two factors. How much was your spouse receiving while they were working, in the benefit period, as well as what age are you, the widower or widow, when you select your spousal benefit. Again, closer you get to full retirement age, the closer you're going to get to 100% of your deceased spouse's benefit. Great thing for a lot of couples that one was a much higher earner than the other. The higher earner passes away. Typically, we see the other earner get a raise in their Social Security benefit. Typically, again, that's after the retirement years of 60s, and that's in the 70s, 70s and 80s. Typically, we see the widower or widow jump up to 100% of what their ex-spouse was receiving in those examples. Another thing here is that a divorce benefit. You can claim on a divorced spouse's Social Security benefit. You can have an ex-spouse claim on your own benefit. I've had the question asked to me many times, if I claim on my ex-spouse or my ex-spouse claims on me, is it going to affect my own benefit at all? No, is the answer. The person won't even know that you're doing it. It's helpful if you have their social security number as you go through and try to file for divorcee benefits. So if you're thinking that the relationship's getting a little rocky and leading towards divorce, maybe make sure to jot down that social security number of your spouse just in case you end up needing it. Some of the rules to get a divorce benefit with Social Security: you have to have been married to that spouse at least 10 years, as well as you have to be unmarried at age 60 and stay unmarried in order to claim on your ex-spouse's benefit. Now, a few kind of funny stories, I think, with this. I know somebody that they're very happily in love, married, however, had some options if they had been divorced to file on ex-spouse's benefits. These individuals technically, legally got a divorce before they turned 60, stayed living together in love, in their spiritual marriage together, but not legally married, so that they could claim on ex-spouse's Social Security benefits for a while, a few years, and then they got remarried again later on, and then the divorce benefits stopped at that time. I've also had the question asked, from some individuals who've maybe been married a few times, can I have multiple ex-spouses applying on my benefit? Absolutely, you can. One that is very famous and noted is Elizabeth Taylor. If you remember her, I can't remember the exact number, but she had something like 7 ex-spouses all claiming on her benefit. Now, her benefit was the highest it could be, right? Because she made a ton of money over 35 years, which I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, that your benefit is based on your 35 highest earning years. Typically, as people are working in their 60s, what they're doing is those years are replacing some of the younger years of working when they weren't making much money, and therefore their benefit increases. But anyway, somebody like Elizabeth Taylor, who made a bucket load of money their whole working career, every single year they were hitting the maximum amount that they could be getting for Social Security benefit down the road. Therefore, she had a very large Social Security benefit, had many ex-husbands. They all filed divorce benefits on Elizabeth Taylor's accord, assuming that they were also not married when they were 60 and stayed unmarried. Right. Remarriage. Absolutely. Again, if you get remarried after a year's time, you might be entitled to your a greater benefit based on your new spouse's earnings themselves and their Social Security benefit. Again, all these ages matter. When you end up electing to get the spousal benefit, that will affect how much you actually get. But if you are remarried in your 60s, it might be worth looking at, does it make sense still to stay on my own Social Security benefit, or can I switch to my spousal benefit and make more through that? All right. Taxation. What's certain in life, people? I can't hear you. The sound in this room is not very good. I apologize. But you're right. Taxes and death. Those are the certainties that we all have. Taxation is not excluded from Social Security. However, it's not a guarantee that all your Social Security is going to be taxed or this amount or that amount. So there's several factors that go into how much of your Social Security benefit is actually going to be taxed that you pay tax on. It all comes down to how much money are you making. And there's several things that are counted towards income that you're making, which will mean more of your Social Security is taxed. And there's other things that aren't counted. The things that are counted, so you would take your adjusted gross income, all your tax-exempt income, plus half of your Social Security payments. If those are less than $32,000 for a married couple, none of your Social Security is going to be taxed. However, the next range, $32,000 to $44,000, 50% of your Social Security is going to be taxed. And then beyond the $44,000, 85% of your Social Security payments is going to be taxable income to you. So what's this tax-exempt income stuff? Those are things like municipal bond interest. So if you buy a bond from the state of Colorado or the state that you reside in, it's state tax free, but all municipal bonds that you would buy are free of federal tax. The income that they create, you don't claim as taxable income when it comes down to figuring out your adjusted gross income. But when you're trying to figure out how much your Social Security is taxed, absolutely that number gets added back in. During the live seminar, we had the question, does rental income count? Absolutely. Rental income is going to be a part of your adjusted gross income, your net rental income. So that's going to increase your AGI, therefore increasing the probability that more of your Social Security is taxed. Now let's talk about some of those things that aren't considered income that won't increase your taxable income. Distributions from anything with the name Roth in it. Roth IRA, Roth 401k, Roth 403b. One reason why we love Roths, they're non-taxable distributions. That money does not get counted when they're figuring out how much of your Social Security is taxed. If you have the opportunity to participate in Roth type of accounts, I would highly recommend that you strongly consider that. There's a lot of cases where it makes sense. CPAs would probably argue with me on that. I believe that CPA's approach is a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, which I get. Contributing money to things like traditional 401ks, 403bs, or IRAs save you money on taxes today, but you pay the tax later. Roths work the exact opposite. At Denver Wealth Management, we think it's very important to be diversified in your assets, what you own, different asset classes, different regions, stocks, bonds, lots and lots of diversification. We also think that it's great to be diversified in your taxation. Have some of these other accounts to where you have more control over your taxes. In retirement, another quiz for the crowd, what is going to be your number one expense most likely in retirement? Crickets. Typically, I hear the answer healthcare. Usually that's number two. Typically, the number one expense is taxation. Utilizing some of these other areas like the Roths can help you lower your taxation through retirement for several reasons. This Social Security piece is one of them. You can pull money out of Roth IRAs. That income is not counted when you're trying to figure out how much of your Social Security is taxed. Other things that are not counted, qualified charitable distributions for all of our philanthropic inclined people out there. Great thing to consider when you're post 70 years old out of your retirement accounts, as well as inheritances, life insurance proceeds, and HSA withdrawals. HSAs are a super cool and strange taxation account for those that qualify. To qualify, typically you have to have a high deductible health insurance plan. Not always the case, and not all high deductible health insurance plans give you HSA qualification. I would check with, if you have a little extra money and you're trying to figure out how do you prepare for possible future increased medical cost, I would check with your healthcare plan to see if it's HSA qualified. If it is, and you're younger than 65, I would certainly look to max fund your HSA annually. It's, again, crazy taxation. You get a tax break for putting money into the HSA. The money grows tax-free if distributed for healthcare reasons. And there's a whole litany of reasons that could qualify for healthcare needs. And so you get tax savings on both ends, the contribution and the distribution. Most accounts don't work that way. Most work, you either get the benefit either going in or coming out. But having it both ways is really cool in my mind. College savings accounts work the same way. For those that have the college savings account, the money is sent out for college expenses. So a few considerations with this Social Security stuff. I would first say, again, don't stress out a ton about it. Get some help with it. Have an analysis ran on you and your family's situation, particularly to you, so you have the data. But remember, there's no golden ticket, no perfect answer, because none of us know a lot of the variables we talked about today, but specifically when we're going to pass away. So I wouldn't lose too much sleep about it. Once you get the data to make an informed decision on it, I would go with it and I would be comfortable. General guidelines, though. is for average life expectancy or less than average life expectancy, take it as soon as you can. And for longer life expectancy, wait as long as you can to take it. Typically, also the lower earning spouse is going to take it as soon as possible, while the higher earning spouse allows their benefit to continue to grow. And remember that not only positively affects them, but it also is probably going to have a positive effect on their spouse by allowing their own to grow longer. I guess there's one last thing on Social Security I forgot to mention. We got a question again in our live seminar. What happens if I was born in 1960? I read something that my benefit's going to be reduced. It's an anomaly. It's a weird thing that's happening right now. If you were born in 1960, though, your benefit, again, there's lots of variables that go into calculating how much you'll get. One of those variables is what is the average wage growth, basically, in the country the year you turn 60. Well, some basic math. If you were born in 1960, you turned 60 in the year 2020. Anything interesting happened in 2020 that you guys can think of? I can think of one big thing, COVID, that caused our earnings to not be very good. Long story short, earnings on average declined about 6% in 2020. Therefore, people born in 1960 saw their benefit reduced because of an anomaly in the math formula itself. Now, none of these people are collecting benefits yet. It's yet to collect at 62 or having the opportunity to do so. There's no law that's been passed at this time that I know of to correct that issue, to make sure those people aren't missing out on really something beyond their control, obviously. I was told that if you were born in 1960, this is a concern to you, certainly write your senators, write your Congress people, ask them to take a look at this math formula, see if the people born in 1960, something can be done so that their benefit is not reduced so much. And with that, again, I would ask that you please reach out to us with any questions that you have on Social Security, on estate planning, on college investing, on retirement planning, on insurance needs that you might have, life insurance and long-term care specifically. We don't sell property and casualty, but if you have questions on that, we have a lot of great resources. And don't go at this stuff alone. Get some help if you feel in need to do so. We would love to compete for your business. If you have questions from today's presentation, please feel free to email us at thepartners@denverwealthmanagement.com. You can also email Austin Garcia. And his email is here on the presentation at the top of the slides. He will make sure to work with myself or Zachary to get your questions answered right away. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you found this information valuable, please share it with friends, family, whomever you think could benefit from this. We love educating our investors. An educated investor is certainly a better investor and an easier client, in all honesty. We love education. But in addition, if you want more, consider signing up for our newsletter. It can be found at denverwealthmanagement.com. You're going to be kept up to date on current events as they relate to the markets, your Social Security that might come up, whatever it is that we think is pertinent at the time. You're going to be updated on that, but you're also going to be informed on different educational events that we have coming up. We're transitioning our events to both a hybrid and in-person model so that folks from all over the country can hopefully have a resource to turn to.